So now that we are being recorded, we are good to go. I did prepare some slides for today's meeting. I have been made the presenter, so looks like I need to open up that presentation and get it in a different queue. Let me do that just real quick. Give me a quick second here. Here we go. Now I think we've got it. Now I should be able to share my screen. For some reason, okay, I just need to click this other button. Now I should be able to share. Okay, let's see if that's.
I just made you an organizer, Angela. So if you were having any problems with permissions, so when you close out, make sure that you don't end the meeting. So
Okay.
you can happy click us all right out of here. So be careful with the power.
Okay, great. Well, I just wanted to share just a little bit of information about how to capitalize on your personal brand and particularly leveraging LinkedIn. So you've got my contact information here. I'll also share it. I'll also share it at the end. I really think that, I mean, this is just one of the favorite concepts that I try to get by to people. It's so easy for us to undervalue who we are and to overvalue who we're not. There's only one of us. There's one of you, there's one of me, and that really is your superpower. So in your personal branding, you want to leverage and play upon that value of your true superpower, the one and only you. So I'm going to start with this as an example, a little bit about me, to be thinking about your own life path. But I grew up in Western Kansas. I was valedictorian of my high school class of 72 people. This is where words matter, right? I can still wear the title, even though it was a very small group of people, but it does convey information about who I am. I'm a case stater. For a lot of people, that conveys a lot of information about whether I'm in or whether I'm out of their group of influence. I started out in the banking industry, then I moved to the tax and compliance industry, and then I moved to the bioscience industry. And those two are ways that I can connect with people and we can start to feel some sort of maybe commonality because we might have some of those life experiences together. Now I'm a coach and a fractional professional. I don't know how people feel on this call about the word fractional, but people seem to have a love-hate relationship with it. Some people love it and other people don't. But what it really means for me is that I'm able to work part-time for one or more clients in my executive role. So I help companies grow and I coach executives on how to be the best version of themselves. And that has really become my why. It's really what I feel like is really part of my purpose. I'm also a caregiver to an aging loved one. That's my mom. I'm Gigi to 4 grandkids. I'm mom of 3 girls. I'm the wife of Jim. And I'm also all of these other things, a golfer, a volunteer, a sewist, and a doer. So depending on where I am, and some people have different philosophies about how you should make posts on LinkedIn, I'll come back to this, like these words. For me, I've chosen just a few roles, and some people say it's either 3 or 4 pillars about what you should post on LinkedIn, 1 or 2 professional and 1 or 2 personal. And I'll come back to that because I spend a lot of my time on those pillars when I'm posting on LinkedIn. So I borrowed this slide from Mark and Brendan from Freeway to Fractional because I think it really speaks a lot to the plan and then the path. So when you look back at what your path, go ahead, Brendan.
Your slide isn't advancing.
Oh, Let's see if that worked.
We're seeing the brand yourself, capitalizing on your personal brand.
Well, that is just not what I want you to be seeing.
Can you hit the slideshow
Let's see.
icon at the very top?
Let's see. Let's see.
If you scroll over, it's right in between animations and review on your top menu bar. So home, themes, etc., etc. It's almost all the way over to the far right of the screen. So
See here. For some reason, it says that you're seeing it, but for some reason, it is not advancing.
would you like for me to pull it up?
I would like that very much.
Okie dokie. That's why you sent it to me, isn't it? Because that is the benefit of technology when it works the way that it's supposed to, which is very rare in my. Okay, so we'll do a screen share. We're going to now we'll see what it actually shares. Okay, hang tight. Okay, does that work?
Yeah. You can go into presentation mode if you want, or you can leave it in the slide view, either way.
Here we go. We've got it. Okay, which slide would you like for me to be on?
I would like for you
Oh,
that,
this was, I think, where you were talking about.
that one. Okay, so I borrowed this slide from Brendan and Mark from Freeway to Fractional because I love this slide. It's a little bit about, how, I don't know, I don't know if you guys have seen the iceberg slide about, what you see is the top of the iceberg, what you don't see is everything underneath that's keeping you afloat. This is a little bit like that in terms of visualization. It may look like there's a straight path to get where you're going or how you got to where you are, but my path certainly wasn't that way. And this is a little bit closer to what reality looked like for me. And I've got a little exercise I'd like to take us on for you to spend just a few minutes about what your path is. So on the next slide, I want you to take out a piece of paper and draw a line across the middle of it. Just kind of horizontal line with an arrow at the right end. And I want you to think of the very far left side of the line as the beginning of time where you remember. And the very far right side of the line is where you are now. And above the line is things that you remember that were favorable. And the things below the line are things that maybe weren't as pleasant for you. I don't want this to be triggering for anybody. So if this is something that you're concerned about, like going back to those times that maybe weren't so great, maybe don't go on the bottom side of the line. But I'll show you what mine looks like. You go up, plug those spots. You go down, plug those spots. You kind of think about your life in terms of, decades or the first half of your life, the last half of your life, however you want to do it. But once you get those dots plotted on your line, then you sort of connect the lines. And you're going to see a lot of up and down, up and down. It's definitely not a straight path. And I don't know on balance if mine is more on the upside or on the downside. I just know that there's a lot of movement. And so the reason why I think this exercise is helpful is because it kind of gives you a little bit of information about what are your superpowers. And on the next slide, I think we start to look at what some of those things, some of those categories that you might use to talk about in your LinkedIn profile related to these ups and downs on your chart. On the, I don't know if you guys can see on my chart, but if you go to the very top of one of these points in your life, those are usually the best times of your life. And there were people that were there with you. They were people who were either at your work or who helped you get there. Those are the people that you might want to reach out to start getting some feedback about what's going on in your industry right now, what's going on in their life right now, what they might be interested in finding out about you and what you're doing at this inflection point in your own life. So it's a way for you to use a point in time in your own past history and to relate that to other people in your journey at this point in your life. You might also look at some of the down points in your life, like maybe down here. And there are a lot of things that led you to get to whatever that point was. At least that's been my experience. I can rehash those experiences. Maybe that's not as helpful as what came after that. What came after those down points in your life is an upswing. And typically in the upswing is where I find my superpowers. I find that I usually did something and someone helped me to leverage something in my own life to get me out of that down part into an up part. And those people in my life are also critical and important people for me to think about when I'm trying to brand myself, because they're the people that brought out maybe the best parts of me that helped me get from the lower points to a higher point. And they might be people that you could reach out to now if you haven't talked to them in a while, and they might be able to help you understand the people at the very top points of your life and also the people on the upswing when you're pulling yourself up from those lower points in your life are probably going to be able to tell you what are some of your best superpowers. They're also great people to serve as references for you. They're also people who might write referrals for you on LinkedIn. So they're people who are going to help you with maybe what words you could use in your description, what words you could use in some of your posts, what words you might use in what you're looking for right now, the particular opportunities that you're seeking. You're basically trying to create your profile in such a way that the right people find you. And the way those people find you is by how the algorithm utilizes the information on your page. So on your LinkedIn profile, the information that we have here on the bullets are the minimum things that you need to be a standout on LinkedIn. So your industry and location, your current position with a description, your 2 past positions, your education, your skills with a minimum of 3 skills, have at least 50 connections and a profile photo. I've got some very specific opinions about your profile photo. You've all seen them. You know the good ones. You know the bad ones. A really good idea is to get one that's current. It doesn't even matter if it's a professional photo. If it's a current picture that looks like you, just kind of zoom in, because a lot of times, I don't know about you, but when I'm meeting up with people for coffee or whatever, if I can't tell who they are, or if people can't tell who I am because I've changed my hair color, it's time to get a new profile photo. So just make it so that you zoom in, you get a close-up picture of yourself so that when you meet with people, they know who they are and they can find you. They can see who you are.
I
So
met with somebody this is so funny. I have to throw this in. I met with somebody for coffee and I'm carrying around their LinkedIn photo and they were in their 40s. And I'm looking around and comparing their photo. There was nobody in the coffee shop that looked like that. Well, my photo looks a lot like me. And so this guy waves me over, and I looked at the photo and I looked at him, and I'm like, wait a minute, is this like one of those moments where dating profiles have pictures of you that don't even resemble who you actually are? And I got over there and I'm like, what's up with this? And he's like, that's my college photo and I really like it.
People, people,
Don't
people.
do that.
It's so, I mean, we've all done, I mean, we've all seen it, right? Oh my goodness. Just be who you are, right? Be who you are. Put a picture up there. It doesn't have to be professional. It just needs to look like you so people can figure you out when they're meeting you in the coffee shop. So, when you're talking about your skills and capabilities, it might be helpful if you know like a really clear picture of what your strengths are. And sometimes that seems easy to say, but may not be as easy to pinpoint what the words are that you should be using. So that's where it helps to go back to those people, the people close to the top points, and the people on your upswings, on your line. Find those people. They're going to help you tell what your strengths are. Or you can use something like this Clifton Strengths Finder. This was way back in, I don't know, this was probably in the early 2000s. I was working for a great company called ADP. They invested in the Clifton Strengths Finder for me and all of our team. It was transformational for me. Just this whole philosophy about knowing what you're naturally good at. And the idea is to get better at what you're naturally good at instead of trying to be good at everything. Just try to get better at what you're naturally good at. That was transformational in my work. So I'm an achiever, I'm a relator, I'm a maximizer, I'm strategic, I'm futuristic. And every time since then, when I've looked at new jobs or new roles, I go back to this and I look at the job description of what my new role or job is going to be, or the one that somebody has introduced me to, or the one that I'm being hired to do as a consultant. And if it has some aspects of these strengths, I know that I'm probably going to be kind of in my sweet spot or a little bit closer to my sweet spot than I would be if I were doing something that maybe had to do with, things that weren't at all related to what my natural strengths are. So that's just an idea. I put a link in there if you want to go there. I don't get paid by Gallup or StrengthsFinder or Clifton or anything. I just think it's helpful, so that's why I'm sharing it. There are other ways to figure out what your strengths are. One of the best ways, like I said before, is to talk to people who were there with you when you did some of your best stuff, people that you worked with that you love, bosses that you love, people that got you. So anyway, we'll move on from there. I just think it's really, really helpful. Use those words to help describe you. On LinkedIn, there is this thing called all-star status. There's all-star and beyond. Their algorithms are constantly changing. I really think it's a great idea anytime that you have some kind of a pivot in your work focus or a pivot in your personal life, that you go in and update your LinkedIn profile, the fresh information, maybe change some words. We've all been, very aware of language and changes in language over the last few years with the global pandemic and some of the other things that have happened. So it's a good idea to go back and just freshen it up, make sure that the words you're using are a true reflection of who you are now. We talk a little bit about your headshot, your background photo. I've noticed in the chat box that a lot of people have customized their LinkedIn extension. So that's after the linkedin.com/in. That's your address for how to get to you. Otherwise, it's going to be your first name, last name, and then a bunch of letters. It just makes it a little bit harder to find you. So customizing your LinkedIn. Revising your summary to be very clear and succinct about what it is that you're looking for or what you want people to know about you. Leveraging on your experience and making sure that that experience is actually conveying the value that you bring as an employee or as a consultant or as a fractional to the people who are going to hire you. Look at your education, your volunteer, your skills and endorsements, your recommendations. And this last little point here is about going live. My advice is when you're updating your LinkedIn profile to go in and turn notifications off at the beginning of making all of these changes. And then before you make your very last change, you can turn the notifications back on. Otherwise, every time you make a change to your profile, it'll send an announcement out to your network, and that may not be your desired intent. So if you're like me, sometimes you change things more than once. You want to see what it looks like, and then maybe you make some more tweaks and changes. So it's not necessarily that you want to have an announcement going out in the meantime while you're making those changes. So on the next slide is my email address. And if you want, I've come up with a little workbook. I'd be happy to send it to you. You connect with me on LinkedIn or send me an email at akreps.me@gmail.com, and I'll send you my little workbook. It's just basically going through the same things that we just talked about, but maybe a little bit more detail. And for those people who are going through a career pivot, since I have had some experience with that, I've also shared some exercises that might be helpful for when you're going through a career pivot to maybe, find your ideal next job or your ideal next gig. So really that's about it. So I'd be happy to, I don't know if we want to take this down and maybe, thanks for being patient while we got it all going. Happy to take any questions that you might have.
That's great. Thank you, Angela.
Thanks, Mark.
It reminds me, when you were drawing the squiggly line, it reminded me of a quote. It goes like this: "Success is never final. Failure is never. Success is never final. Failure is never fatal. It's the courage to continue that counts."
Yep.
Yes.
Oh my goodness, that's an amazing quote.
That was Winston Churchill.
Well, there you go. Very, very wise.
That is certainly incredible. So, okay, so let's do a little bit of workshop here, if everybody's good with that. So let's just get with everybody on here about how active are you on LinkedIn right now, and give me the let's get a thumbs up. So Carlin, Mark, can you come back on camera? Hey, Mark, I've got 3 Marks on here. So all the Marks come on camera, because we're going to do stuff that involves thumbs up, thumbs down, or work in progress, so that we can kind of get a sense of where everybody is. So Carlin, Carlin may not be with us right now, but give me the thumbs up if you are logged in on LinkedIn, let's say 5 days a week. You're in here? Okay, everybody.
Chased the other Mark away, by the way.
Did I run him off? Okay. I don't even know which Mark it was. Today is the meeting of the Marks. I love it. So, okay, so if you're on LinkedIn every day, then let's also take it a little bit farther and say, if you're on LinkedIn, what activity are you doing on there? Are you scrolling through and checking out what everybody is doing? For that, give me a thumbs up. Okay. Are you actively engaging with those relationships like Angela described that are either above the line or below the line that have been there to support you throughout your career? Thumbs up. Okay. Working on it. Work in progress. Okay. So if you take nothing else out of what we've talked about today, that exercise that Angela gave is game changing. I'm talking about it's life altering what it can do for you in terms of reconnecting with those people.
Can I ask a question or interrupt? That to me is the mystery of LinkedIn. I just cannot. I mean, you get up there, and I don't have as many. I probably don't have half of the connections that people like you all do, and I can't follow them all. And more people are posting, and of course, there are a huge number of people that I should be connecting with, for any number of reasons that are quite valid, not the least of which I like them. So how do you get organized? Because I got to tell you, it would be a 10-hour a day job for me to do that. And I'd love to have somebody get a little granular and tell me how they organize their day, how they set the priorities. Are there tools on LinkedIn that I just don't know that I can sort my contacts or my connections through and prioritize them? I'd love to have somebody just give me a brief brain dump on how to
You,
how to be more
Angela,
effective.
you want to go with yours
Yeah.
as far as your approach, and then I'm happy to share mine.
Yeah, I do several things on LinkedIn on a daily basis. You can set it up where you're looking for opportunities, and then LinkedIn will send you a daily email and tell you about opportunities that match your skills and experience. So I use that on a regular basis, and even though I'm looking for fractional work, I'll still follow up. Sometimes the job poster will be listed on those opportunities, and you can do a search in. So when you're looking on your phone or on your computer, you can look for jobs or you can look for people, and you can see who the job poster is. And sometimes I will actually seek out the job poster, look at what they're posting about, seeing if there's anything that we have in common, actually reach out and talk to them. Sometimes you can look at their contact information, and if you're connected, they may have their email address. If you're not connected, you may have to go into like a stealth mode and stalk the website to find what you think the cadence is for the email address. But I'm not beyond stalking to try to figure that out sometimes. And usually I just tell them what I'm after. I see that you've posted for interim or a executive director position or CEO position or business development, senior vice president. So I'll usually just say, I'm a fractional. I do that. You can see my past experience. I'm not looking for something full time. Is that something that you've considered? So I'm sort of like, why not on
Yeah.
that kind of thing. With regard to sort of my sort of working on, because the LinkedIn algorithm is always changing about who's in my feed. It sometimes has to do with I don't know what as to why those people are showing up on my feed and why the people that I'm trying to follow, like, they don't ever show up on my feed. I have to go search them out. But the last time that I went through my little timeline exercise this week, I remembered some new people that I need to go follow. And so I went over and intentionally looked at them in their page. And I thought if I was able to like or comment on their stuff, that maybe they'd show up in my feed anymore. But that must not be the algorithm. I don't know. So I'm just starting to make it intentional. I've got my little list of names, so just go through on my list of names and check people off and go see what they're up to. And if I can, do the same thing. Hopefully I still have their email address. Hopefully they're still at that place. If they're not, sometimes you can find their personal email address. Sometimes that takes longer for people to respond. So have grace, have a lot of grace, have a lot of grace, because people don't check their LinkedIn messages and people don't check their personal email addresses very often. So it's like I say things like, this is not urgent, or hey, when you get around to it, or remember when, let's go down, remember, so those kinds of things. That's all I can share with you, Frank. Hope that's helpful.
Oh, that's very helpful. I appreciate that. Thank you.
So the perspective that I have taken on this is I have a tendency to look at this with a lot of intention behind what I'm doing. So I make my list of my top relationships that I want to engage with. And once a week on Monday mornings, I go and I look at their profile. And what I'm doing is I'm hanging out on their profile. I look at their activity. I look at their posts and I engage with their content. So I do likes, I do comments, I do shares. I do a lot of interaction with their profile. It takes about 3 weeks for me. And then at the end of the 3 weeks, then all of a sudden it seems as if their content is interspersed with my content. They're showing up in my feed, but it does take a lot of work for it to do it. But it's funny how as soon as they start interacting with my content, normally if somebody's popping up in my feed, it's because they've started interacting with my content in some way, shape, or form. And normally it's because it may be somebody I worked with 10 years ago that is now all of a sudden pop back up. I mean, I've got a brand new client that is a salesperson that works with a sales leader that was in one of my courses 11 years ago. And she just popped back up. She's on my email list. She went and checked out my profile on LinkedIn because I'm pushing content out via LinkedIn. That's where I'm posting all of my blogs. And so that's where a lot of what is happening right now. LinkedIn is really pushing you to share content. So if you're posting content, they're giving opportunities for you to have the newsletter functionality. They're giving you all kinds of extra publicity. Like the way the newsletters work, it's pretty doggone cool because they push out an invitation to your network that you're engaged with on LinkedIn when you start sharing content regularly and you're in creator mode. So I will tell you that there are little tricks that I'm learning, that it's posting consistently, it's getting people interacting with your content as far as having conversations, it's creating something that people are talking about with likes, comments, or shares, and then it's posting more long form, and they love, love, love video. So see Lori and Dave for that one.
That's really helpful. I appreciate that, and particularly I had had creator mode on for a little bit, then I turned it off for some reason. I don't know why I turned it off.
Turn it back on.
Maybe
There's really not a lot of downsides to having it off.
Yeah.
Or not a lot of upsides to having it off.
I also appreciated what you both were saying about being a bit more organized and, sort of having a cadence, as I think Angela said the cadence word. But, I tend to probably spend too much time on LinkedIn, and it's not, I'm not feeling terribly productive while I'm there. So anyway, I won't dominate the conversation, but very helpful to hear you both speak. Thank you.
Frank, I would tell you that I spend like 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes in the afternoon going through my notifications. And I like people that I like, share some things. And that's basically keeps me in the mix. And most of my work, somebody's checked me out. I've been referred, but somebody's checked me out on LinkedIn. And it usually comes from my connections seeing that I'm active in LinkedIn. And if you do enough posting and liking and stuff, people see you and you keep top of mind with them. So I'm not quite as scientific as Brendan and Angela, but it seems to work.
That's great. Thanks.
It really does. And thanks for coming, Mark. It was good to see you.
See you soon.
So I'll tell you that, and it's really interesting when I talk about video and how video works. One of my clients does water gardens, and they post like a short snippet of a water garden. It's like 10 seconds, but it's a Zen loop of just falling water that, it loops and repeats so that it just keeps going and going. And they end up with so much play time on that particular video because it's beautiful. It's kind of a relaxing moment and people slow their scroll as they're going past it, and they really reward that. This guy that's sharing this content ends up with thousands of views on his post because it's just something that is just relaxing, it's refreshing, and they're rewarding video. So, the biggest thing is post video. And Frank, you were working on that, and good for you for doing it. Keep it up, because I'll tell you that the majority of my contacts that are doing regular video on LinkedIn, I mean, it's through the roof with what you get out of it. So get hooked up with Dave down there, who'll give you the Here's how you do a YouTube short, or here's how you're going to do a 60-second or less, snippet that is not a commercial. So you don't want to do commercials. It needs to be something that adds value, that's engaging, that's funny. There's a reason TikTok is huge. Holy cow. If you've got a topic that you can talk about with like a TikTok reel, I mean, you can break the interwebs with that one. But I haven't figured it out. I've just got, my puppies and my kittens that I normally bring into the conversation.
That's great.
So does anyone have any other questions? This was a fun conversation. Everybody good? Okay, well then let's talk about what you took out of today. Because the whole point of coming together for conversations is to get ideas, to connect with people, and to make your life better. That's why Mark and I do it. So, based on what Angela shared with you today, what are you going to do with it? So, Lori and Dave, how about let's hear from Ditto Man first, because he's been really quiet. And then we'll hear from Lori, and then we'll work our way around.
That's why I do video. I'm only allotted so many words. So what I would say that I got from this is the LinkedIn updating the profile. I haven't touched my profile since I put it together the first time. So now I'm going to need to update it.
And we expect to see a lot of video from you, Ditto Dave.
Got to come up with them. I will do it.
I bet you're sitting next to somebody that can help you with the content for that.
Yes, and then many times I get edited from her. So I just, I come up with the wild, crazy ideas, and she's like, "No, don't show that." So I have to come back and forth because I don't know if you've ever looked at my picture on LinkedIn. It is, it's this. This is me doing on that picture. So I need to update that picture also.
Although I like that picture.
Well, I do too.
I can tell you that there's a functionality in my AI writing software that's called bad marketing ideas. And I have to tell you, that thing is so fun to play with, where you just put things in there and then it comes off with some real oddball solutions that you then sit there and think about, that just might work. So all I'm saying, maybe there's something to the...
Yeah, is that Chat GPT?
No, it's actually Jasper.ai.
Okay.
It's very, very cool. So it's based on Chat GPT, the latest version of it, only it is a marketing specific software that you can go in. Like if you've noticed, my LinkedIn posts are actually on point now. Yeah, that's because Jasper is helping me. It does 80% of the post. I do 20%, but instead of it taking me 3 hours to do my copy for the week, it now takes me like 45 minutes.
Okay.
So it's a very cool, and it's unlimited words now, so I can actually use it for client work too. So there's the commercial for Jasper.ai. So Jasper, you can feel free to send boatloads of money our way based on this conversation going viral on LinkedIn.
Yes.
All right, Lori, what are you taking out of today?
I think I need to do, we are Strength Finders fans, definitely. And I felt like it was probably the most valuable understanding of your personality of all the different tests we've all taken over the last 30 years, right? But I think that I've heard people say, update it, do it again. Do it again. Yeah, I think the last time I did this was, 2017 or something of that nature. It's we should probably do it again and revisit that.
Yep, absolutely.
So.
Awesome.
Well,
Well,
Andrew,
Carlin, pardon?
Our youngest will need to, when he gets out of the Corps, he'll need to go to K-State. That's how we got through the first Strength Finders. Was Adam went there, and the school provided that for us. Our first opportunity. Yeah, it was very cool.
Well, it's very cool. All you have to do is, if you buy the book And then once you buy the book, then you go inside and there's like a little tag inside that has a code, and
Mhm.
you put the code in and then you can take the test.
Yeah,
So yeah, see if it works again. Try it again. Maybe it'll do it again.
Yeah.
we'll have to.
I don't know.
Valid for one use only.
Oh, well. Okay.
New book.
I bet if you buy the book on Amazon, you can probably find it pretty inexpensive. And there you go again.
Mhm.
You can go for it. All right,
And then
Carmen,
there's the follow-up.
how full is your bucket?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of cool. My
That's a good
favorite one that I've read lately has been 2 Weeks Notice by Amy Porterfield. So if everybody's, sharing their favorite books, that's one of my favorites right now. So, okay, did we lose Carlin? Is Carlin back with us? I'd love to hear if he heard our presentation and wants to share what he's taken away. He's still a little quiet. All right, Frank, what about you? What gem are you taking out of today that you're going to take action on?
I'm going to, well, two things. One is I'm also going to do the Strengths Finder. I think that's really valuable, but also get more organized. I thought Angela's whole presentation was really, really valuable, and identifying those people who have helped me when I needed help, Angela being one of them, and um, really making a better commitment to setting those priorities and being more organized in my approach to how I again engage with people on LinkedIn. Was all those were very helpful.
Very cool. Well, if you want to get really structured with that approach, we have a framework and a roadmap that
Yeah.
guides you through it. And actually, that exercise of Angela's is one that we're adding into the program because it is so incredibly helpful in preparing you for what we call the focus group of one interviews. So
Outstanding.
I just had to give a little nudge there. That's okay. You said you needed a little push every now and then.
Oh, hey, I appreciate it. I need lots of pushing, so that's good. Thank you.
You're in the right place. Okay,
Yeah.
so Mark, what are you taking out of today that you're going to take action on?
Hey, Frank, I got a question. Did you get a hold of Jim? Did you guys hook up?
For the insurance?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I reached out to him and I've heard back. So he's actually on my to-do list.
Okay, well,
We'll
it shouldn't be
nudge
on
him.
your to-do list. He's the salesman. I'll harass him.
We'll give him a nudge.
Anyway, that's neither here nor there. I need to update my profile. That's all. I mean, I just got a new certification last week that has to be added, and change a little bit of my verbiage so that it's really clear what I'm focusing on. And I think that's going to take multiple tranches, but I'll get there. Be good.
Very exciting. All right. Okay, Angela.
Well, I'm going to work on actually using, I'm going to challenge myself to get a few more of the contacts on my list. So I've got a running list of about 10 people a week. This is my list from this week. But I think it might not be a bad idea for me to do something along the lines of what you're doing with like multiple engagements over the course of not just that 1 week. Maybe I need to do it 3 weeks in a row. I do have a benchmark of 135 profile views a week. That's sort of where that's like I want to get above that. And I think that what you're saying, that might help with creating more visibility. So
Yes. Yeah, I'll tell you the other thing that has been absolutely huge for me is creating a company page. There is the coolest Social Media Examiner has a YouTube channel that is absolutely incredible. And it's like there's a master class in there on LinkedIn marketing. And there's just some amazing tips and insight there. So if you haven't checked that out, go check it out because it's way cool. So awesome. All right. Well, thank you all very much for joining us today and for having this important conversation about building your personal and professional brand on LinkedIn, because this is something that I think a lot of us let slip. And
I really
much like
appreciate this. Thank you all.
it's crazy how you make these little moves, and some of these little moves may seem like they don't add up until all of a sudden you get contacted by a client that you haven't heard from in 10 years, and they reach out and say, I see you're still doing this, and I really enjoyed that class I took with you. Do you have a version of that today that I can run my sales team through? So, and by the way, she's now leading an organization of $250 million in revenue and is working in 50 states. And yes, it's a pretty incredible thing. So,
Outstanding.
this works. It really does, folks. So, thanks for coming. Tune back in next month for another exciting episode of Stop by My Office.
Thank you, everybody. Good to meet you all.